Hello friends, in this part of the video we are going to understand a very important and easy concept, CDC, change data capture. We'll be understanding what exactly CDC means. In our journey, the recommendations while creating tables, planning for CDC, statistics, recomputations option, row and page lock options during table creation, and recommendations for the CDC. A technique, CDC is actually a technique used for auditing DML operations like inserts, updates, deletes. Server aliases will be understanding in this video, in this part of the video, including network protocols like clients and server level network protocols. Come on, let's start now. Let's understand what exactly CDC is and how it works. Well, here we go. To make us understand the things easily, I got a database, an SQL School Online DB, and there is a table. I got a table called BN Storeful, an online book database system, an online book selling company database table, and this would be containing about few columns containing store numbers, order status, merchant information, division information, region, market area, zip codes, etc., including the call out, stock and other information. We are more focused on the implementation part. A primary key store number, sort technique. If we are planning for the change data capture, a DML auditing technique, it's always a good practice to ensure the table is defined with these options. Pad index off, we should not bother the fill factor. Hope you remember the indexes concept, the basics of indexes, pad index and fill factor. Don't bother the fill factor, leave it as it is, pad index off. Ensure statistics are always up to date. So statistics no recompute is equal to off means the opposite. The recomputation should be working fine. So statistics should be up to date. We got this concept of statistics updates, maintenance plans. One of the previous videos, maintenance plans, we got time to time statistics updates as a part of maintenance. Here the design part or the rebuilding and redesigning part. So defining the table, planning for the table, ensure statistics are always up to date. So no recompute is off means compute is on, statistics up to date. Ignore the duplicate key, this is optional. It depends on whether you wanted to allow duplicates or not. Pertaining to this clustered index, for primary key anyway, you don't like to have any duplicates. Row lock. If I say row lock is equal to on, at the time of defining the table, any operation, any batch of inserts or updates or deletes, they prefer to go for row level lock first. Hope you remember the very first class of basic DBA locks. You got RID, row level locks there. File ID, colon, page ID, colon, row ID, if you remember correctly. Yes, we are referring that particular concept. The row locks equal to on. There we got the rows on existing tables. Here we are managing the locks while defining or redefining, rebuilding the table itself. It can be on or off. If it is on, row locks preferred. If it is off, in such a case, you got the other one, page locks to be on. When to use which? If we are expecting a huge volume of loading operations, mainly for ETL, data warehousing, if we are planning our tables for data warehousing and ETL operations, it's always a good practice to directly have page level locks on. We say bulk insert, bulk loads. For enterprise data warehouses, we prefer this option of page lock on, row lock off. Otherwise, for other enterprise OLTP database systems, rapid transaction, real-time database systems, online transaction system, we generally see on and on. So either off and on, row lock off, page lock on, enterprise warehouses, EDW, enterprise data warehouse, or on and on, OLTP, online transactions. What if both are off? If both are off, then entire table level lock will be available. The table lock we cannot skip. Hope you remember row level lock, page level lock, table level lock, database level lock, basic DBA first class locks and deadlocks concept. Well, for now, I would make on and on a real-time OLTP system, and on primary for index, on primary for table, and I would be creating this particular table now. I got the table created. What next? Yes, here it is, friends. We plan for data insertion after some time. You got an empty table first. You got an empty table. We'll plan for the data insertion after some time. Let's understand what exactly we are planning to do first. Well, here it is. CDC stands for change data capture. Let's script it here now. CDC stands for change data capture. Used to audit DML operations on any database table. And this involves multiple steps. Step number 1, enable CDC on the database. Step number 2, ensure SQL agent is running either in manual mode or automated mode. Ensure SQL agent is running and make sure you enable CDC on the table. Ensure we enable CDC on the table. This is actual concept now. I repeat, step number 1, enable CDC on the database. Then step number 2, agent should be running fine. Enable CDC on the table. What happens? This step results in number 1, 2 jobs auto created. Here it is. One for auto audit, we say capture job, and second for auto purge, I mean the cleanup job. This job, the second job, is responsible to perform all the cleanup operations. Next, number 2, second important point. This step results in one CT table called change tracking table. A system level change tracking table would be auto created. This is actually used for the DML audits, like the log sequence numbers, what is being inserted, what is being updated, what is being deleted. Now the actual real-time use of CDC, not just only for audit, mainly applicable for a data warehousing technique from SSIS developers. Yes, whenever we go with SSIS development, we got a concept called CDC, implementation of ETW and EWH, enterprise data warehouse with ETL, and CDC technique. Mainly when we were working with BI applications, SSIS users, when we are working as database administrators with enterprise data warehouse or ETL users, we may come across this CDC concept. So we are understanding, friends, how exactly it works at the back end now. Let's enable CDC on the database first. To enable CDC on the database, you say exec sp underscore enable underscore sp underscore cdc underscore enable db. That's it. We say sp cdc enable db. This is the first step. Once you enable CDC at the database level, I'll just get this information. Just to save time, I got the script ready. Step 1, enable CDC at the database level. Then comes step number 2. What is that? Enable CDC at the table. Ensure agent is running. It's running fine. And here we go, friends. exec enable, say enable table, and this requires 3 important parameters. First, at the rate source schema, at the rate source schema, and at the rate source name, at the rate source name. Here we go, friends. And at the rate role name. 3 important parameters. Source schema. The schema of my earlier table is the default schema. I repeat, the schema of my earlier table is the default schema. Right now the default schema is DBO. So let me provide the DBO schema here. Let me provide DBO schema. Source name is equal to, let me specify the table name. Yes, on my screen, my table name would be the BN store full. Let me just make sure I provide the required table name also. Let me provide the required table name as well here. I'll say source name, source schema, source name, and at the rate role name. Means specify the required list of users. Required list of users or roles to which or to whom this CDC audit access, I mean the CT table should be given access to. You remember, friends, step number 2 results in one CDC state table, say CT table, change tracking table. Who should be accessing the CT table? Obviously the administrators or the ETL administrators. Here I would say null, meaning the users, the roles, the domain and the security group accounts, the DLs, distribution lists, who have access to the base table would also have access to this particular role. I repeat, friends, null means the users who have access to the base table do have access to this change tracking also. We call it null, and here it is. I'll just make sure I got my comma separator here to avoid the syntax error, and I would say execute. Remember, friends, the step 2 would result in 2 jobs being created. Let's wait for those jobs. Let's wait for those jobs. Here it is, friends. One is capture job, one is cleanup job. I repeat, friends, step number 1, enable CDC database level. Step number 2, enable CDC table level. What happens? 2 jobs auto created. One is capture job, one is cleanup job. Why we require them? For day-to-day operations on the CDC part. Capture job runs continuously. It runs continuously. Whereas the cleanup job runs once every 24 hours. Again, we know how to change the schedules for the jobs. We know how to change the schedules for the jobs. So here it is, friends. 2 CDC jobs are created. Capture cleanup. Right click properties and we can play with the schedules. What next? With this information, understanding how to enable CDC database level, how to enable CDC table level. Let's perform some data insertion operations now. Let's perform some data insertion operations. Yes, friends, let's take an example of performing, say, few insert operations. Say for example, I'll take only some 2 or 3 insert operations for our understanding purpose. Step number 1, CDC DB level. Step number 2, enable CDC table level. Now let me perform just 3 inserts. Now how we are going to audit? How we are going to audit these inserts? Any user who has got the read permissions on the table, they would say select from the CDC change data capture results in the activation of a schema called CDC schema. Step number 2, enabling CDC on the table would result in creation of a CT table. The format of the CT table is the source table schema. Here we go, friends. The source table schema underscore table name underscore CT. Standard prefix, standard naming convention by the system automatically. Schema name underscore source table name underscore CT. So this gives you one audit report. Friends, we inserted 3 rows, right? So you got 1, 2, 3. Let me insert, just for understanding purpose, let me insert 2 more rows. I got multiple rows on the board. I'll just insert only 2 more rows. Let it be whatever may be the values. I'm inserting 2 rows again and you audit. You got 2 more rows. Or for example, I would say update test table set. I got a specific column. Say for example, I got a column called some city or state. I would take some column called state. Set state is equal to null. For understanding purpose, assume I want to say update state is equal to null. 5 rows affected. For now unconditional. Say 5 rows affected. And here you will see earlier, friends, 5 rows. Now additional rows coming up. Same way. For example, I would like to say, friends, delete from table. Delete from table. And say execute. 5 rows affected. Again coming back to the CDC, you would see additional rows coming. Earlier 15, now 20. Friends, firstly you got 3 rows, right? If you observe carefully the sequence, you got 3 rows plus 2 rows and suddenly 10 rows. Then again 5 rows. Total 20. So 3 plus 2 for insert plus 10 rows for update plus 5 rows for delete. Isn't it? Observe there, friends. Yes, how do you understand? How do we audit these operations? Underscore dollar operations is a key area for focus now. Underscore dollar operation 2 means insert. Here it is, friends. Underscore dollar operation dollar operation is equal to 2 means insert operation. That's how we need to understand the audit report. What else we can see? Here we go, friends. Here we go. What are the values being inserted? We can find. What exact values being inserted? We can find. The values being inserted, the business values. Same way is equal to, say again, underscore dollar operation. I'll put at the last first. I'll put at the last. 1 means delete operation. For example, last 5 rows, if you remember, last 5 rows sequence was delete. Underscore dollar operation 1 means delete. Here, in between, you remember, you got update. 3 values before update. 3 means values before update. Same way you got again underscore dollar operation. 4 means values after update. In fact, it is underscore dollar operation. I was spelling earlier. It's double underscore dollar operation. This is the predefined column name. 3 means value before update. 4 means value after update. For example, we are actually updating the state value, right? If you remember the state value, mn to null, or to null, mn to null. See there, friends? il, value before update, null, value after update. WA, value before update, null, value after update. I mean row number 6 and 7. Let's verify now. Row number 6 and 7. Well, here it is, friends. Row numbers 6 and 7. For row number 6 and 7, let's understand carefully, friends. Here we go. 3, 4. 3 means value before update. 4 means value after update. I repeat, 3 value before update. 6 and 7 we are talking about. Value before update WA state, value after update null, because you got the update operation null. So we can easily audit old historical data, mainly for data warehousing, to actively maintain the historical data. We make use of this CDC concept. Remember, there is some negative performance impact on CDC. I mean, on the production database if we enable CDC. So mainly the CDC would be enabled on the replica database systems rather than the live. Actually, on the replica database systems, we prefer to enable the change data capture, a common practice. Ensure statistics are always up to date. So here we go, friends. Step number 1, enable CDC database level. Step number 2, enable CDC table level, and you are done. You'll be resulting in a CT table, change tracking table. CT means a change tracking table. Using this change tracking table, maybe in the same session or any session, any user, we can audit a permanent table. Well, this is the concept about CDC part, and I would just make sure I write these values here. I'll just write all these notes so that this can be sent while you're accessing this video. Next, apart from CDC, another agenda item of this video, connection to the server. Connection to the server, any version, 2008 or 2012, 14, any version, involves what are called as protocols, a set of network level instructions. Come on, start all programs, either 2008 configuration tools, configuration manager, or 2012 or 14 or 16, configuration tools, configuration manager. Click on this configuration manager and we would see the services. We generally ensure the service is running fine, only then we'll be able to connect to the server. And you got network configurations for the instances you installed on your computer. The default instance, MS SQL Server. By default, you would see 3 protocols: shared memory, named pipes, TCP/IP. Shared memory, hope you remember the architecture part. Again, SQL Server or T-SQL classes architecture part, if you remember. Going there. Shared memory to ensure connections between your SQL Server instance locally. TCP, remote connections. Name pipes over LAN, local area network. If you enable, again you have to ensure you are restarting the service. Out of these, the protocol called TCP, the one required for the network, can also be used for the purpose of securing the server name. Let's understand how to do that now. I repeat, friends, from the architecture part of SQL Server, one of the SQL Server T-SQL videos, from the architecture part of SQL Server, we got the protocols. One of them TCP/IP, remote connections, named pipes, local and LAN connections. Shared memory, only local connections. Here LAN means local area network. My laptop and my desktop at my home can be connecting using named pipes. TCP/IP, I will be connecting to my company's network with a RASIN card or any other means online over internet, TCP. Other advantage of TCP apart from the remote connections is hiding and abstracting the server names. We call them server alias. Let's understand, friends, how to define these server aliases. Go to SQL Server native client configuration and you see aliases. Say new alias, and I would specify the port number. Say for the alias name, I would say my server. Give some server name and specify the port number. It should be a proper TCP port. For example, the default port 1433. And to which server you wanted to connect? Yes, I require the connection to this SQL PC server. Apply. I repeat once again, friends. I would say cancel and repeat once again, friends. Right click alias where SQL Server Configuration Manager, either older versions or higher versions, same concept. 2014 Configuration Manager and aliases, new alias. Provide the alias name. I would say my server, port number, server name. My server name would be to which server you actually wanted to have the alias for. I would say for SQL School PC, I want to have this alias. Provide the alias and say apply. Okay. You got the alias now. What does it mean? You would connect using the actual base server name, or you would also have the option to connect using the alias name, my server, either locally or remotely. Both these are pointing to the same instance. I repeat once again, friends. Right click and say new alias. It will ask you for the alias name. You give some alias name. Port number. We are using the default port. How do you know which port actually we have to provide? For that again, you go to the old window protocols. TCP/IP properties. TCP/IP properties. Make sure the property is enabled. Make sure the property is enabled and go to second tab IP addresses. Down you see the port 1433. So whatever port available, port number, of course it's auto assigned. Whatever port automatically assigned to this instance, that particular port only we have to provide in this new alias. So here it is, I said S1 and my port number is 1433 and my server SQL School -PC and click OK. So this way a server can have multiple aliases pointing to the same port. Port cannot be changed now. I mean, in the alias creation we cannot have our own port, it should be the same port pointed by the server. Right click TCP properties, IP addresses, and here you got the static port. So whenever there is a static port, you got the option of aliasing. There is a nice option SQL Server dynamic ports. To use dynamic ports, set the value to 0. In such a case, we cannot go for aliases straight, not possible. Dynamic port means SQL Server can use its own port on the fly. No specific port would be assigned, no specific port will be reserved. And we mostly see static ports, mainly for the purpose of firewall configurations and network, ease of network management. We generally see static ports rather than going for the dynamic ports. Next, I click OK. So no 0 here, it should be 1433 and click OK. Any changes, we generally recommend to go for restarting the server. So we configure this aliasing or change to the ports during off-peak hours, non-business hours. Generally, aliases to be created at the start of your project itself. I mean, before the rollout into the production part, or just after rollout, before you get the actual access to the users, we go for this aliasing concept. And with this, we'll stop for today. So we understood today, friends, CDC and server alias part. Two important concepts. And in our journey, we understood create table with statistics, no recompute option, row lock and page lock option during table creation. Please make sure, friends, we practice on time and you can always contact us for your doubts and clarifications. Thank you very much.